Before there were cigarettes, before there were brands, there was the leaf. Tobacco is one of the oldest forms of spirit communication known to humanity. Long before modern times, it was understood as a living messenger, a way for human intention to travel beyond the visible world and return with meaning. In the oldest traditions, tobacco was never a habit. It was a bridge, not something used to escape life, but something used to speak with it. Our ancestors knew breath as spirit itself, and smoke was breath-given form. When the leaf touched fire, it awakened. When guided by breath, it carried thought into the unseen. In that moment, intention became vapor, and prayer learned how to rise. It was never about getting high. It was about clarity, connection, making the invisible visible. That's the memory the leaf still carries. Radio Cigars.
Radio Cigar. Radio Cigar. Radio Cigar.
Yo, BDell got the chat lit up with these rice bowls, man.
They put the rice bowls in there.
Oh,
Smoke. Yeah.
It's going. He's superstar status right now. Whoa, what is going on, y'all? Damn, I ain't have him on here in a minute. I didn't know it was like that now. Shit. You must really be cooking on your channel.
A little bit, cooking up a little bit.
Man, listen, family, we're gonna have a great show tonight. I see y'all in the building early, you know, already about 700 people in the building. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
A lot is going on, family. A lot is going on. I want to take this timely show, a show that's going to count when we all look back at it. I want to take this time to welcome to the platform. Sharif was just on here, but I told Sharif, you got to get back on here. I said, Sharif, you got to get back on here. I need you. So, but I got my brother Sharif Bey and BDell. Welcome back to the platform, y'all.
Yeah, back in the MSG. You already know what time it is.
Yes,
Indeed.
For sure.
Listen, a lot of strange things going on, y'all. We got a lot of scientists keep coming up missing. You know what this reminds me of? Right before the pandemic, a lot of the health dudes was coming up missing, unalive. Y'all remember that? Yep. Yeah, around 2020, a lot of the herbalists and people into alternative health, they was coming up missing. So now, then we had that thing happen in 2020, and the rest is history. Y'all know what happened. So now we got all this disclosure news, and we got so many people coming up missing. And most recently, I want to start out with the show before we get deep into the show. I want to give a RIP. I want to give a rest in peace to David Wilcock.
Yes.
That's right.
I first seen him on Ancient Aliens way back in the day. Then I would see him on Gaia sometime with Corey Good. He was one of the only white boys that talked about black extraterrestrials. I used to watch him he used to come on YouTube. I would try to watch his show, but it was so long. It was like 4 hours. So I couldn't get the whole show every Sunday, but I got a tremendous amount of information on the Black Sun from him. I remember a couple of years ago, I was calling BDell and Sharif about information about the Black Sun. I was thinking about doing a documentary, and he did a show, and it was a tremendous amount of information on it in that show. So I'm thankful for that. But I want to give let me just let y'all know what they're saying happened as we start the show. Anybody got the TV on? Any of y'all got the TV on?
No.
Okay.
I don't, brother, man.
I hear TV. All right. So they said David Wilcock's cause of death. How did a YouTuber and paranormal writer die? Wilcock was 53 when he died from a weapon he used on himself. according to a new report. So they're saying he used a weapon on himself. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but that's what they're saying right now. They're saying that let me see. On April 22nd, TMZ reported that authorities in Boulder County, Colorado said that the deputies were dispatched to a residence when a 911 call came in just before 11 a.m. for an unknown problem. A communication specialist was on a 911, believed the caller might have been in the middle of a mental health crisis. They said minutes later, the man used a weapon on himself and was pronounced unalived. So, yeah, y'all go figure that. And, you know, we heard him say plenty of times he's not suicidal. And, you know, just a show last Sunday, he was talking about how he's thankful for every day that he's alive. So yeah, it's a lot of things going on. A lot of the people, some of the people that are missing actually reference ultraterrestrials, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted Sharif on here. He was the main brother that's been on my channel talking about the term ultraterrestrials and saying how it's not really extraterrestrials, it's ultraterrestrials.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess, you know, before we get into the show, what's your thoughts on the scientist David Wilcock? Let's start out with that before we really get into everything with the ultraterrestrials.
Go ahead, BDell. Go ahead.
Well, the inception of it, David Wilcock, he passed away on April 20th, and exactly 53 days apart from that, you get June 12th. And June 12th is exactly 53 days apart from 420. And on June 12th, that's when they're going to have the movie coming out about full disclosure. It's called, I think it's called Last Disclosure, but it's a movie that's coming out by Steven Spielberg. And then one thing about, you know, David Wilcock, he talked about these interdimensional extraterrestrials such as like Simeon Toko and Simon Kambuga, and how the guy was able to regenerate himself. And he said that he will be, you know, unalive for putting that information inside of his book. So there's a connection with that, because a lot of these ultraterrestrials that you're talking about is basically in alignment with the story about, you know, Simeon Toko, who was able to regenerate himself due to, you know, the activation of immortalized cellular lines. So it's one of those things where I forgot her name. I think her name is Springett. Mary Springett. She was one of the scientists, and she's was also one of the ones that was talking about the ultraterrestrial. So it's kind of like one of those things where they know that, you know, the planet is going through a metamorphic state, and they know that the knowledge on the planet has to go through a reverberation process, meaning that it has to collapse the old timelines that's connected to the Piscean Age of Darkness. So what's happening is that, you know, full disclosure is connected to astrotheological science. So in all of it's applied to prophetic divination and things of that nature. So it's one of those things where everything that basically took place with David Wilcock is definitely connected to the scientists, because the great majority of these ultraterrestrials that they speak of is really, you know, your gematria body interfacing with your higher self, which is your higher self in a different dimensional timeline. But we're going to get into that as we get through the, you know, the presentation.
Excellent. Sharif?
Dope. I like a lot of what BDell just had to say. It was dope. So somebody had mentioned in the chat Bill Cooper. I had the honor of meeting Bill Cooper personally. William Cooper, the author of Behold the Pale Horse. I brought him to Syracuse, New York in the year 1997. Right? So many of you may not be familiar with how he passed. I'll tell you how he passed. His wife gave me the story personally. Allegedly, there was a warrant for something minor that the sheriffs were serving on him. They show up at his house. He refuses to take the warrant. Guns were drawn, and he was shot right there in front of his house. So there's a little bit of a parallel. Also, too, one of the mentors of I forget the gentleman's name, but one of the mentors of David Wilcock died the exact same way as Dave. Apparent suicide. He unalived himself as the police and emergency team showed up to a 911 call. Really, really interesting. Now, what also is interesting to all of it, to me with all of this is what we're looking at. People like whistleblowers, like David Wilcock and others. They represent what we call like an overlap of two different civilizations. You've got, as Ito pointed out, the rank and file normal society, those of us that think a particular way, that live a particular way. Then you have what we call breakaway civilization. Some of you have heard the term. Breakaway civilization began in this dispensation in the year of 1954. Why 1954? Because it was 1954 that the present world state achieved victory over gravity, anti-gravity. So all of the implications that involve that constitute what we call breakaway civilization. In other words, you have a whole civilization that's living in post-disclosure right now. That's what you have. If gravity was captured and controlled in 1954, that means the most advanced automobile you could think of right now is 100 years obsolete. That means rockets are obsolete. That means paying for energy is obsolete. That means money is obsolete. And you have a whole civilization living in that era. You've got Dwayne McKinnon. Well, his first name wasn't Dwayne. His last name was McKinnon, right? The autistic hacker that hacked into the NSA database looking for information on UFOs and found actual military records of naval officials and ships that are called off-world stations. In other words, names of spaceships, names of officers that are off-world personnel. He literally found evidence of breakaway civilization. So when you have people like David Wilcock and others that are real, they represent an overlap, and sometimes they can say a little too much too soon.
Indeed. Let me play. I had this video queued, but I had to get rid of it. Let me find it real quick for the film. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I can tell we're gonna have a packed chat tonight. Shout out to all y'all. Make sure you hit the like button. That's very important. Let me play this video real quick as we get into this topic that many are not familiar with. Ultraterrestrials. Just play a real quick video.
Yes.
For a minute. Are some UAPs actually glowing beings from alternate dimensions? Hear me out. There are experts who think so. One term jumps to the top. It's called the ultraterrestrial theory, an intriguing hypothesis about the origins of UAPs. Most explanations for UAPs fall into two categories, either human-made or extraterrestrial. However, there's a third, less conventional theory that's gaining attention, the ultraterrestrial hypothesis. This theory suggests that UAPs might not come from distant planets or be products of advanced human technology. Instead, they could originate from beings in other dimensions that coexist alongside our own. This plays directly into the term of interdimensional beings, stating that these entities might operate in ways that we can't conventionally understand. And this ultra-terrestrial theory could encompass a range of possibilities, including beings that are present in Earth's environment in some form, yet hidden from our usual perception. And these entities might not only be interdimensional, but they could also belong to other traditional categories known as angels or even demonic or jinn beings. These ideas might seem far-fetched, but they deserve consideration. With theories like the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis, it's important to keep an open mind to explore these possibilities. Perhaps many of these UAPs aren't actual crafts. Could they be interdimensional or ultra-terrestrial beings that are manifesting within our dimension? Do you believe? Let's talk crazy for a minute.
All right.
Let me speak to that real quick, dear brother.
Yeah.
So there's a paper all of you should get. You can download it right now. The title of the paper is Ultra-Terrestrial Models. The paper was written by a real insider, and that's Hal Puthoff. Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ are the ones that were backed by the CIA to create remote viewing. And Hal Puthoff has worked extensively with exotic propulsion designs and things of that nature, anti-gravity and all of that. Now, why that's important is this. Like when we talk about disclosure, follow me, people. It's narrative control. You've heard me say this many times. Narrative control is the war. It's the war is to control how you think. Okay? All right. So even the idea of disclosure has a narrative that is being worked on to control the minds of people. So nowadays, when we think of disclosure, we think of it as a singular event, UFO landing on the White House front lawn, gray aliens coming out saying, "Take me to your leader," right? Just like in the religious sense, we think of judgment as what? A stringy-haired pale dude gliding on a cloud to save you. There's no difference between the two, people. The same people are controlling both narratives, all right? What if disclosure is a long drawn-out process that's already occurring? We're right in the middle of it. You see what I'm saying? For instance, in the early 40s and 50s, whenever you said alien, it looked like a human being. It wasn't until the mixed couple of quote-unquote black and quote-unquote white, Betty and Barney Hill in 1966, that you saw the gray alien. So society is being massaged into a paradigm. So you saw the gray alien then with the mastery of gravity and of DNA technology, now the powers that be can 100% mimic a real alien invasion. Even insider Emery Smith, when he was working on quote unquote aliens and working with quote unquote aliens, he himself said he couldn't tell if they were aliens as in extraterrestrials or hybrids made in a lab here on Earth, right? Then you have the extraterrestrial to ultra-terrestrial ideal. Humanity's minds are being guided in a particular direction. You see? So now it's not beings from another planet necessarily 100%. It is beings from different dimensions manifesting in 3 dimensions. You see that? And then now what do we have? You've got the most latest iteration. Instead of time going in a linear fashion and this time being the most advanced humanity's ever been, you've got the idea, which is more closer to the truth, that time is cyclical and we've been here and higher and more advanced many times before, aka Atlantis. You see what I'm saying? And what you have with each cycle is survivors from each cycle. So the so-called aliens are actually homegrown, pre-Adamite human. As Elijah Muhammad said, original people. See that? But see, Elijah Muhammad cut right to the chase in the 1930s, and that's what he said. He never said aliens. See? So that's another way to look at this thing, people. We have to change how we're thinking about it.
Yeah. BDell, you want to touch on that?
Well, it's also one of those things where when you're speaking about these ultra-terrestrials, you're really, speaking in terms of entities that master the gematria body in the physical world. They master the art of, people, places, and possessions to the point where they didn't need a physical vessel. So it's one of those things where when you're talking about a transmutation of process, as far as like consciousness or whatever, you got to understand that the inception of the story of Christ consciousness comes from the fact that when you get into the Bible, they talk about how Jesus was crucified on Mount Calvary, which is on Golgotha, and Golgotha is equated to Argartha, and Argartha and Golgotha are basically interchangeable, but it's basically talking about the place of the skull, which is where you activate the olfactory nerve, which is the Christ consciousness. The Christ consciousness is how you tap into that Merkaba. The Merkaba in itself is where you get a lot of these plasmoids and these interdimensional, outer dimensional, extraterrestrial entities that's coming in, as far as like that don't have a corporeal state. So the great majority of these non-corporeal entities is really entities that basically mastered themselves on different dimensional planes, because they said the nomenclature title for a lot of these ultra-terrestrials, they was called P47s and P50s. Now that is basically the past plus 47, which is equated to 47,000 years, and the past plus 50,000 years. So it's basically one of those things, in order to reap the benefits of reaching higher intelligence that's connected to your higher self, which is your Zohar body. When you tap into the Shakti energy, in order to pull that intelligence down, you have to activate the Christ, which is the middle way. Because when you activate the Christ, that's when you're able to manipulate both timelines, the past and the present. So it's one of those things where one of the scientists, she also talks about how they were basically futuristic beings that come from a different timeline. So in order to have that capability, you have to activate that dodecahedron, which is basically the quintessence of the universe, the ether, because ether in itself embodies all things in nature and is able to manipulate timelines by way of interface transitions.
If let's say, you know, Sharif talked about survivors from each timeline, what timeline would you say, do you think these ultra terrestrials would they come from? I hear a lot about Tartaria, I hear a lot about Lemuria, I hear a lot about Atlantis. Does anything in the books will give us a clue as to what timeline these beings would be from at this moment?
Go ahead, brother.
I really believe that they're multidimensional. And the reason I say that is because the ancient souls of Tartaria, the ancient souls of Atlantis, the ancient souls of, you know, highly fifth dimensional civilizations, a lot of those souls, when they died, they was extracted into the sun, because the sun in itself is a portal for ascension. And a lot of times these non-corporeal entities, they basically are extracted back from the sun in the form of a solar flare. So it was one of those things where they're basically, when you're talking about the ancestors living through you, that's when you get these ultra-terrestrials that's able to interface with you as a human vessel on this planet. So when the ancestors is working through you, that's when you're talking about these neutrinos, which is basically a form of Holy Ghost particles, which manipulates, you know, the great majority of everything, you know, that's connected to physical matter. So that's another way to look at it when you're talking about, you know, these entities that's basically interfacing with us, these ultra-terrestrials, but you got to be open to receive it.
Sharif?
So one of the things that was one of the things that BDell said was kind of dope. So let's look at it this way. In the 3D world we live in, depth, width, and height, right? Location is a where. You hear what I just said? Location is a where. Radiohead Rich is where? In Atlanta, right? Atlanta area, right? BDell, where are you? North or South Carolina?
I'm in southern Indiana.
Oh, Indiana. My bad. That's right. When did I say Carolina? Indiana. That's right. Anyway, in 3 dimensions, terrain is a where. In 4 and 5, in 4 and 5th dimensions, terrain is a when. You hear what I'm saying? So I could travel to the Indiana area. I could travel to the Atlanta area. I could travel to one other different area in 3D. That's a when. I mean, a where. But in the higher dimensions, you're traveling between different timelines. That's a when. So that also factors in as well. Things become more, the higher the dimension, the more complicated. You get it? The higher the dimension, the more complicated. So now, when we're talking higher dimensional or ultra-terrestrial being, right? You're talking about people that can not just travel where, but travel when. You understand? So, for instance, let's talk about the technology, which is, again, just an outgrowth of the thinking of the people. So you're talking technology like UFOs, UAPs. They don't travel within 3D space-time. They manipulate 3D space-time around them. That's what they do. They don't travel within 3D space-time. They shrink 3D in front of them and expand 3D behind them. So that's why they can make moves that, to our 3D observation, would absolutely kill you if you were inside of it. It would turn you to jelly. But technically, the spaceship isn't moving. It's manipulating 3 dimensions of space in 1 dimension of time, which means not only does it travel around in 3D space-time, it travels into different timelines as well. It's a time machine.
Hey, let me ask y'all, if y'all had to pick one movie to show the people at this time to let them know what's going on, what movie do you think sums up everything that we've been talking about on this channel, Sharif channel, BDell? Would you pick Interstellar or The Matrix? Which one would you pick?
I would pick Matrix and mixed in with Childhood's End.
Okay, I didn't see that one.
Childhood's End is on. You can only, it's only available on YouTube, and it goes in talking about these archonic forces who control the demiurge, and how humans are trying to communicate with these higher intelligence and things of that nature, and they pretty much groom you into it because it's kind of unorthodox at the time. So Childhood's End and The Matrix is that's good for the physical and the esoteric at the same time. So yeah.
What about you, Sharif?
I would pick I'd pick three movies, but in a particular order. First one is Interstellar. That's your initiation.
Okay.
Yeah, Interstellar is your initiation. Okay, all right, because it forces you. The movie Interstellar, by the way, is an initiation because it stretches your mind to understand or to begin to think about the concept of time as an object, which means that you yourself are outside of time. Right. Then, so we would go from Interstellar to The Matrix, right? And then from The Matrix to the movie to the movie Jumper.
Ooh, I gotta see that one again. Yeah. I ain't see that in a while.
Yeah.
And real quick, by the way, family, I apologize for the technical difficulties tonight. It's rare that all of our video is choppy, but for some reason tonight is like a little choppy on all of our end. So I do apologize, family. Just try to bear with us. It's a very important message tonight. Before we continue, I just want to let I was inspired watching David Wilcock. He would talk about the raw material in the Law of One so much. He would always reference it. So I went ahead and I bought it. I bought this last year, and I didn't even get a chance to crack them open yet. But he would just talk about it so much, and I was like, and I heard other people talk about it, but he would just mention it so much. I say, you know what? I gotta have that in my library. So if anybody want a good read and know what some of these individuals that's tapped in is reading, you can look into the Law of One, the raw material. But yeah, shout out to him once again.
I'm glad you brought that up. You know why?
Yeah, good.
Because you just reminded me of the name of the individual that was a big mentor to David Wilcock, that died the exact same way, and that was Don Elkins. Don Elkins is the author and the channeler of the raw material.
Wow.
He died the exact same way.
The same way?
Death by suicide.
Allegedly. Man.
Ain't that crazy?
Yeah, no, that's super crazy right there.
And the guy, the book that he put out, the one he said he put the information talking about Simeon Toko, the guy who had the abilities of Jesus, the co-author of that book, he was also unalived 2 days prior to David Wilcock's death. So that lets you know right there in real time that this was a hit.
Who's Nick Pope? Who's that? Somebody said he was unalived. Do y'all know who that is? Who's Nick Pope?
I'm not familiar with the name.
I don't know who that is.
Nick Pope.
I think. Okay, he was somebody else who investigated UFOs, and he recently made the transition too. Yeah, there's, like I said, there's a lot of anybody that's in this field, be careful out there. Be careful out there. Nick Pope headed UK UFO desk. Thanks for letting me know. We're all working this together.
Oh, I know who he is.
Okay.
Yeah, he was former UK military. He was former he was former military for the UK. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, he interviewed with Billy Carson. He interviewed with Billy Carson.
He recently passed. He recently passed. That's right.
What do
Yes,
you
it is.
think? What was it? What do you think in particular? All these scientists and UFOs. Is there something in particular, whether it's anti-gravity, whether it's ultra terrestrials? What in particular do you think that whoever is doing these things is saying, nope, can't go there, nope, can't go there? What one thing, or if there is one thing that is causing all of this fear to happen amongst the parasitic elite?
Let me throw this out there.
Mhm.
Again, remember, the war is for your mind.
Right.
Okay. So it's narrative control. Many people involved in New Age, UFO whistleblowers are actually part of the machine. They're actually part of the machine.
Yeah,
See,
Wesley talked
so
about that.
I just happen to be privileged, pardon me, to know a number of insiders, and they've told me personally, like the one I had on your show not too long ago, Randy Vietenheimer. He told me personally, and he named some names. I won't name the names, but he named some names, some well-known names that are part of the cover-up, that are part of the narrative control. So there's wars going on inside that circle. You understand what I'm saying? There's
Oh
wars
yeah.
going on inside that circle. Yeah. And so I would say this. So there's number. I'll put it like this: there is information or a body of information that a certain insiders know that are whistleblowers, but there's certain things they won't say, right? And to that point, there's certain things they may come across or a certain contact that they may make, and so they get silenced or neutralized before they even have the opportunity to disclose. They get silenced just because they're in the know of certain things. So it's preventative. It's not punitive most of the time. It's preventative. It's like, nah, just because you made contact with so-and-so, you're out of here.
Right.
See?
Right.
Yeah.
No, definitely.
You got to think of it. Go ahead, brother.
Oh, I'm sorry. BDell's on mute. I'm sorry, BDell. Get my brother.
No, I was agreeing with what you were saying. I was saying it was kind of like a mob style on how they, handle certain situations.
Oh
if
yeah,
you're subjected to certain information.
indeed.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
No, indeed.
Like real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick. There was a famous novel, science fiction novel called "Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?" It was turned into a movie. The movie was called Blade Runner. Okay. That movie, and then there was a number of movies that were written by the same author, science fiction. But the man's name was Philip Dick. Phil Dick, pause. Anyway, he's a science fiction writer. Right? But then he had an encounter. He had an encounter where he saw something very simple, very mundane, but it triggered something in his mind. And from that point on, his life was almost a living hell. But it was the result of this triggering that he began to write. And he said that what I'm writing, you may call science fiction, but it's not. He said he did a talk about his work where he said, we live in an artificial simulation, and just one of many artificial simulations that people would call different timelines. Mind you, he's a science fiction writer, but guess what? That speech won him CIA and FBI surveillance. You hear what I'm telling you?
Yeah.
And harassment. Yeah.
Wow.
Real talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What would be the connection with these ultra terrestrials in the Anunnaki, since that's such a popular topic on YouTube right now, the Anunnaki, and on social media?
Well, you also have negative ultra-terrestrials, because when you get into the teachers of Kemet, they talk about the Anunian Thurgi, who created the Cosmicon mythograph, which is basically the blueprint of the universe, or just the blueprint of everything that's connected to this simulation under the firmament. So that also goes into, when you get into the Gnostic text, it talks about how, these archonic forces, created this world, to basically, extract, energy, from, individual people who have, the ability to tap into your authenticity. So it's one of those things where they created this world as a far like an energy entrapment, and to tether connect you to, the artificial satellite of what I call the moon. But what was the other part of the question, brother?
The Anunnaki. What's the connection? Is there a connection with the Anunnaki and the ultraterrestrials that
Oh yeah.
we're talking?
Yeah. Another movie to watch that speaks of that philosophy. Watch the movie The 3,000 Years of Longing, because it goes in talking about how the jinn or the genie, or basically, your form of elementals who have the ability to shapeshift, and it goes into that philosophy. So it's one of those things where when you get into ontological artifacts, it tells you about how you have malevolent entities that come from different dimensional planes. So that coincides with the Inky and Enlil story. So just like you have good ultraterrestrials, you also have benevolent ones as well.
Right. Okay.
But it's also one of those things where it's able to interface with your nervous system, because it's all based on your bandwidth and your vibration. So it's kind of like one of those things where, let's just say you're dealing with an NPC who doesn't have any type of authenticity, because your authenticity is an extension of your aura. So when you get into the periodic table of elements, the nomenclature title for gold is AU, which is basically a prefix for aura or authenticity. So your authenticity is what makes up the golden light body, which makes it a protectorate, to where you don't have these negative ultra-terrestrials, that's coming from different, worlds and things of that nature, to where it's able to manipulate your nervous system, because your auric field is your energetic morphic field, and your energetic morphic field is what creates your aura. So it's like, it can be a protectorate to certain entities, but you can be food for a different, demographic, and it's based on your nervous system, because it's a state of mind.
I've been hearing that word a lot the last year, the nervous system. I didn't hear that word a lot 5-10 years ago, but that word has become very popular in the spiritual community. I guess, it's something that we are realizing that is extremely important. And Sharif knows about it because he's into the Qigong and all of that.
Right. Listen, there's such a thing as chemotheology and biotheology. You see what I'm saying? There's such a thing. So let's just cut right to the chase, right? We're ultra-terrestrials. We just don't know it. You understand?
You're going to have to explain that.
Ultra-terrestrials. A big part. Sure. Very simple. Very simple. Very simple. Man is not the body nor the soul. You hear what I'm telling you? We're not flesh. We just think we are. That's called the fall of man. All of the religious traditions and the secret society traditions are aimed at one thing: bringing us back to parity with true self, which is off-world. And when we mean off-world, we mean off 3D dimensions. That's it. The hereafter is where the idea that humanity is above 3D manifestation, while in 3D manifestation. That's the whole thing, because then we join the rest of space-based humanity throughout the universe. Our band of humanity is playing catch-up. See what I'm saying? And then you've got, as Brother BDell just mentioned, without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. So we'll be perfectly comfortable in this condition if there was not opposition. See that? All of us deep down inside know that there's something greater than this, even if consciously we have a problem believing it. You see what I'm saying? So but you need an opposing force. And what's the opposing force? A group of entities that are trying their best to keep us from thinking. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They try their best. That's the malevolent. That is the objective of the malevolent entities. You understand? You have benevolent entities that are aiding and assisting humanity into realizing who they are. See? and then you have those that oppose them. How does that trickle down onto the manifest? Theurgically, you have what in certain secret societies call the Black Brothers. It has nothing to do with skin tone or race, because these same people will say that the Black Brother, the most recent manifestation of the Black Brothers prior to right now, was the Nazi Party. You see? And the objective is to do what? To stop humanity from thinking. That's the objective.
Right. Oh yeah, somebody go, Sharif.
Yeah, speaking on, that's what it's all about. Even when you get into the esoteric or the Gnostic text, they talk about the archonic forces. They want to feed on the emotional energy of human beings on the planet. So that means that, so it's one of those things where they got to keep you at a degraded state to the point where they're able to extract your neurons from your body and to basically hack your mind. That's what all technological devices is all about, is the interface with your chakra system to the point where they can use it in a form of extraction. Because that's in the Gnostic text, it talks about archons. They don't have the ability to create. They can only mimic the energy of human beings on the planet who have human emotion. So the same thing actually translates in real time, because like I said, they have to basically mimic a certain energy to have some type of sustainability on this planet.
No, indeed.
That's dope.
You talking about the loosh, right? BDell, when you said the emotional energy, the loosh.
Yes, it's the same. It's the same concept. Yes, loosh. But there was an imam in the Middle East. He was speaking about how the jinn that they speak about in the Holy Quran. He said the great majority of them are lizard beings. Like they got different, states. Some people call them elementals. They got non-corporeal. They got corporeal states. But he said that every time they die and they come back to the planet, they look more human. So it's kind of like it's an energy exchange. So the more that you experience like human life, just experiencing, emotional energy in itself, mimicking the energy of those who have authentic frequencies, that the more human you come back on this planet. So there's many different ways that they do it. They do it in the form of blood contracts, covenants, and they also do it in the form of human experience, and they also do it in the form of technology. Because the other nomenclature title for Metatron is also called electro, because they can do like horizontal gene transfer by transmuting their consciousness from electrical devices into a physical vessel. You ever seen the movie Shocker that came out in the 80s?
I don't remember it.
It's an old movie of a guy. He was able to do like transfer electrical energy with like natural ether. So that's how a lot of these elementals, that's why we live in a, technocratic society. That's why they're trying to build all these smart cities, because these elementals, they can create an encryption over your vessel to the point where it creates a form of light code lockdown. Because just think of your chakra system, look like a sprocket. The human circulatory system, when you look at the chakra, just think of it like a sprocket. And then you got a chain rail system. You got one chain tether connected to the moon, and you got another one tether connected to the sun. It's kind of like the silver key and the golden key. It's talking about a certain unlocking of consciousness, but it's all based on your bandwidth, your vibration. And that's what I'm saying. Like the great majority of, all these technological devices, they want you to interface with the silver key, which keeps you in a perpetual state of reincarnation. So it's kind of like they living vicariously through humans who are basically at a low vibrational state.
We always hear about the sun gazing, and I'm not sure if I asked this to Sharif before or not, but we always hear about the importance of sun gazing, and when you sun gaze, we're getting them light codes, the information from the sun, or just being out in the sun, you're getting that information from the sky up above. I know a lot of people, like I know Wesley talk about the so-called aliens being inner Earth civilizations, and a lot of people talk about civilizations that exist within the Earth. So if we could get the information by being in the sun, by looking in the sky, just being outside, can we get information from the inner earth by grounding? Because now we're focusing on the ground. So does grounding give us inner earth information?
Absolutely.
That sun gazing gives us the information from the sun.
Well, first, even watch this. You know, again, remember our perception of light is very myopic. It's very thin. You know what I'm saying? It's very, very, very thin. What we're talking about is light is electromagnetic energy, but electromagnetic energy has a much broader scope than just the visible spectrum. That said, light codes, to use the phrase light codes, are not confined to the visible spectrum, which means you got higher vibratory rates of electromagnetic energy that have no problem passing through the entire earth. None. You see what I'm saying? So just because you've got underground advanced civilizations from previous cycles, which we do, right, doesn't mean that they're blocked off from light codes. You see? And yes, there are codes or even there are codes that come from the core of the earth as well. We have a saying in the Moorish Science Civil America, ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother is given you suck. That's speaking in the general macrocosmic perspective of information via energy coming from above and information coming from Mother Earth. You see what I'm saying? And whether you're a Terran, which is what a lot of breakaway civilizations call us, surface dwellers, right? When you're a Terran or you're underground, you get both. You see what I'm saying? But the question now becomes this. Do you have the ability to, it's like when you download software into your computer, can you open it in your computer? You see what I'm saying? Your computer can have the software loaded, but can you open it? Can you gain access to it? That requires work on our part. We all have them because we're already exposed. But can you open the software is the question. That requires work.
Indeed. Wow. Oh yeah, it's fire. BDell, you want to add on to that, or you want to keep it moving?
Yeah. Also, in order to unlock that energy, they also talk about it in the esoterics called the square in a circle or circling the square, which creates the sigil of Melchizedek, which is ether, in itself, to where you basically embody all things. But I didn't really have much to add to it. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Indeed. What's this image? Sharif, you just sent me something. Since we're talking about the cosmos and all this scientific stuff, let me just put this on the screen real quick. Give me a second, family, because Sharif just sent me something. I want to ask him what's this about. What's this about right here, Sharif?
A while back, you were, as you mentioned on the show earlier, you were talking about Black Sun.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember at that time period, I was, I was approaching it from the esoteric perspective, right? Looky, come to find out that scientists recently discovered through the James Webb Telescope that there are actual physical black suns, dark stars, invisible suns powered by dark matter, shining with the energy of entire galaxies without emitting any normal light. That's not a black hole, that's an actual sun.
So
ain't that something?
What this is a new article that came out? This is new, Sharif, or this old?
This is new.
Wow. There you have it, huh? You heard about this one here, BDell?
No, I haven't heard about it, but it makes a lot of sense because according to the crucifixion of Jesus, he was crucified on Mount Calvary on a solar eclipse. And a lot of people interface that information with the black sun because that represents the 13 zodiac wheel of Ophiuchus. That represents resurrection. That represents Jesus walking on water. That represents to the point where you're tapped into a certain consciousness to where you don't need a physical vessel. That's why in the movie Lucy, the more intelligent she got and the more she was able to tap into that neuromelanin, she didn't need a physical vessel. She basically turned into the intelligence of dark matter energy. And that's when she was able to interface with, all technological devices that was inside that room, just like I was explaining, because it's the same thing as horizontal gene transfer, conjugation, transformation, and transduction. They even show you in the movie that just came out, The Mummy, Lee Kron's. They show you that demonstration because the dark matter energy is it turns the heart and the brain into a interstellar fractal portal. It turns it into a portal, so it's basically a state of mind to get, to the apex of, what they call heaven. So it's a state of mind that's interconnected to the black chakra, which is the black sun.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I got it. Wow. Y'all heard that? Oh man, that was that was so somebody, and I want to ask when we was talking about emotions, because that's always been an important topic of mine. Somebody asked, is the chat is like moving tonight, but somebody had brought up, let me see if I see it, are emotions in another dimension? I think that was the question. What's the connect? Yeah, talk to me about emotions. We're talking about ultraterrestrials being from other dimensions. Like, what dimensions do these different emotions occupy? I know they talk about different instruments can take govern different dimensions. I remember somebody another gentleman that passed away a year or two ago, Sharif. The guy who talks about, damn, what is his name? We used to talk about him, white dude. He used to talk about the biofield a lot. Passed away 2 years ago or a year ago. You know what I'm talking about? He always talked about the biofield and
I'm trying to think.
Rosicrucian. He was a Rosicrucian, Sharif. It's on his
Rosicrucian.
His name starts with an R.
I don't know.
Do y'all know who I'm talking about? Oh shit! Damn, I don't know why.
I can't think of it.
It ain't Big Hana, Big Hana.
I mean, I'm familiar with the Rosicrucian doctrine regarding this. I'm familiar with that. But first and foremost, the simple answer to the question is emotions are energy, and energy is absolutely, especially that type of energy, is absolutely part of a different dimension. Absolutely. Think of it like this.
Robert, that's Robert. Robert
dimensions.
Robert Gilbert. Robert Gilbert. Thank you, y'all.
Okay.
You know Robert Gilbert.
Okay, Robert Gilbert. I'm familiar. Yep, Robert Gilbert. That's right. So, but two things in three dimensions cannot occupy the same space at the same time. But guess what energy does? Certain types of energy. That's exactly what it does, doesn't it? Permeates material things. What is that evidence of? That is evidence that it belongs to a higher dimension. You see what I'm saying? So thinking, understanding, reasoning, willing, memory. These are things that we do right now at this very moment. But these are things that are of a higher dimension. Thought is happening on a higher dimension, people. Thought downloads into physicality.
Yeah.
That's the fact. That is the fact. Okay? Thought is an energy. Emotion is an energy. And it's on a high. This is why, like I mentioned a couple of days ago on your show, Rich, our brothers and sisters in Haiti can draw a veve on the ground in white chalk. That is a lattice structure. That is a container for energy. But what energizes the veve to allow the deity to manifest? The hyper energetic state of ritual, the emotion, the energy. You see what I'm saying? Right. And then the veve becomes a medium. The smoke from the cigar becomes a medium. The rum being spit becomes a medium. It becomes iconic of something higher. You see?
What can y'all tell me about the you know, we're talking about emotions and all of this stuff, and higher dimensions. What can you tell me about uh the music of the spheres, or just what role does music play in other dimensions, being that it governs this world so much, and we are known as the rhythm nation of the planet. Everything about us involves music. We are the most influential when it comes to music to everybody in the world. How important is music in these other dimensions according to the ancient texts?
Music plays a very big part because music in itself creates an octave vibration, which is a sound, and sound in itself interfaces with light. So,
Right.
in order to activate the serpent mind, you got to listen to neoclassical music. Hence, you see the word neo, which is connected to the neocortex. So that means that the great majority of these energies in itself have the ability to, rewire certain neurological chemistry. So, music, plays a big part as far as like emotional energy and things of that nature, because the music frequencies is supposed to be used as a catalyst to tune you up, tune you in vibration. So it's kind of like the same thing when you're talking about the concept of the restoration of the matriarch. Just like when you look at like certain musical notes, I think after the 12th note, you go into the 13th interval. You know what I'm saying? So that means that, that represents music in itself represents a form of resurrection. Is to get your frequency in tuned.
No,
Mm,
definitely.
dope, dope. Music that's why in Freemasonry, music is one of the seven liberal arts. Why? Because music is creation. Music is the lattice work that allows manifestation to happen. In other words, right? Construction is harmony, harmonious energy, and that's music. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
destruction is chaotic notes, discordant
Mm-hmm.
notes. That is noise. You see,
No, definitely.
that's what that is. Music is creation, flat out.
I want to just staying with the music for a little longer. We hear about our president name is Trump. We hear in the Bible and Revelations about the trumpets. They say
Mm.
King Tut was buried with his trumpets. What they say right here: one silver, and one bronze copper one that was discovered in 1922 by Howard Carter. Some people even say the trumpets were supposed to be used to, I guess, to resurrect his life or something like that. But since the trumpets are used in the Bible, as we're seeing this paradigm shift, are the president that's currently completely making change happen, whether we like it or not, because he's just tearing shit apart. Name is Trump, and Tut was buried with trumpets. Is there anything you can tell me about the power of the trumpets, and what does that symbolize, and what does that do to the DNA, to and everything else?
I, you know, I say, just the great majority of these trumpets, like I said, is looked at as like a cosmic, alarm clock. And the reason I say that
Mm.
is because, the great majority of these trumpets in itself is not just based on, physical instruments. It's a lot of these energies that spike in the Schumann resonance on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can look at that, what I'm saying, from a metaphysical and from a celestial standpoint. But like I said, as far as like a play on words and trumpets and things of that nature, that lets you know that, that tune and that frequency is acclimated to whatever timeline in itself. Because even when you're talking about just tunes and frequencies, and, even when you look at a piano, it represents a timeline. Each point is a timeline. Each interval, each sound is a timeline. This is just another way to look at it from an instrumentation standpoint. But yeah.
No, indeed, indeed. All right, Sharif, you want?
Yeah. So the book of Revelations talks about seven angels with seven trumpets. And the whole point of those seven angels with seven trumpets was to blow a discordant sound relative to the old order, to
Mm,
destroy the old order, to
mm.
destroy it, to break it up. You see what I'm saying? Trump is absolutely one of those trumpets.
Mhm.
He is absolutely one of them.
Yep.
Oh shit. Yo, y'all know
Yeah.
what? Y'all know what in our culture, what's one of the most, like, if you want to feel alive, if you want to get your blood circulating, you know what's one of the best songs in the last 20 years in hip-hop that uses the trumpet? I ain't even gonna say the name. I just want to see if y'all know, and I want to see if the people in the chat know. I ain't gonna say the name, but let's just see who know this song, the melody. Dun, 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 dun,
Fuck them
dun,
other
dun,
nigga,
dun,
cause I'm down for
yeah.
Snoop Dogg.
Yo, you play that? I remember, listen, I remember being in the club. I'm like 20. Yo, you play that? I mean, pandemonium.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pandemonium. And that song was in the club for over a decade, just straight pandemonium. Like, we sleep on our technology, as Sharif said. That song right there, family, is some powerful technology. So tap into that. I mean, the lyrics is kind of, low vibrational, but I'm just talking about the beat and the trumpet. But yeah, that's it's actually C Murder and Snoop.
That's right.
F the mother niggas. But yeah.
Yeah.
Very powerful sound, melody.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
That's a
Absolutely.
classic.
Yeah, it is. As soon as you started humming it, it's like it was immediate.
It activates something. Yeah. Ride for
sure.
money. Yeah. That was something. That was something right there. Definitely something right there. Give me some questions from the chat. I do want to, since we got so many people in here and the chat is booming, I do want to get some questions from y'all. And while we wait for the questions, Sharif, I want you to tell the people real quick, because you got an event coming up. Remind them of your event real quick while we get these beats.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to Beats by the Pound. Yeah, good, Sharif.
We got an up Beats by the Pound. That's right. We got an upcoming retreat, 3-day retreat in Stone Mountain, Georgia. It's called the Macrocosmic Integration Retreat, May 22nd through the 25th at the Atlanta Evergreen Lakeside Resort. We're going to be covering 3 major topics. We're going to be doing major Qigong activations, cranial sacral activations, and the microcosmic orbit, meaning actual exercises to activate and open up the pineal gland and set it vibrating. Also to sexual transmutation energy. So the spine being the magic wand, we're going to activate the magic wand and both ends of the magic wand that will connect upper and lower realms. That is what we mean by macrocosmic integration. And then induction into the Afro-Atlantean current initiation. That's what we'll be doing. You can go to if you go to the Instagram, the link is in my bio on Instagram. Okay, it's sagalaretreats.squarespace.com.
Indeed. We're gonna get to a couple of questions. Yeah, I do agree. Shot Cock TV said, yo, the lyrics are on low vibrational. That's rider music. It is rider music. So I'm not gonna even say it's low vibration. That's straight rider music. F the mother, I ride for my nigga. So you're right. You're absolutely right on that. It's just, it is rider music. So I will say that.
Yes. But you know what, dear brother? Hold on. Watch this.
Yeah.
Ideologically, it was no different from Toussaint Louverture's work. Ooh. And the vibration that he broadcast in the iconosphere that allowed him to beat Hitler. I mean, not Hitler. Napoleon. Yeah. Yeah.
That now. Wow. Okay.
That's rider music. It's rider music.
And we need that.
But you know what? Follow me. We all have friends, especially if you came up in the hood. We all got friends that they ride for you, but you're reluctant to call on them. You know why? Because they ain't got no off button. The riders that our brothers in Haiti called on they ain't have no off button.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep this thing going. Everybody naming all the songs with horns. Yeah, a lot. There's so many songs with horns. So many. I'm gonna list all of them. Funky Child, somebody, Curtis Mayfield, all the ones y'all name. I'm gonna listen to all of them tonight. I'm gonna tap in tonight. This show got me this show should have you activated. After the show, you should be activated. So yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody somebody wants to know what's the top things we should be avoiding / doing to keep our bodies activated.
Right now, anytime you see a lot of chemtrails outside, the next day or that day, go to a steam room or a sauna. You want to sweat all that nanotechnology out of your system because it contains arsenic and barium and a lot of aluminum. So you want to get all of that stuff out of your system and get some massages.
Underrated, right? BDell massages, right?
Yep. Because it's another way to unlock those energy cortexes. Because like I said, you know, if you have a lot of encryptions on your body, it's going to be hard for you to, you know, receive certain energies or whatever, or just be, you know, spiritually aligned, you know, from a physical standpoint.
Indeed. You want to add on that, Sharif? Anything we should be avoiding?
I'd love to. It's funny, BDell, it's funny you brought up body work. I had some very, very deep body work. And when I say deep over the weekend, like I do body work, right? Deep tissue, craniosacral, I do all kinds of stuff, but I rarely have it done on me. And then 13 years ago, I had very, very, very deep, you know, surgery, you know, in my abdomen. The only type of surgery more invasive than the type I had is brain surgery. I had, you know, colon resection. Anyway, as a result, a lot of trauma. And this guy literally had his heel inside, you know, down, you know, pressing into my lower torso and lower abdomen to help release the trauma. And it wasn't nice, but afterwards I felt brand new. You hear me? Because remember, trauma is toxins, people. And if left, those are energetic knots that turn to physical ones. You see? Mm-hmm. So you want to break that up. That's very good. That's very good advice, Brother BDell. I would add to that. Start the process of challenging how you think, the things that you presume are true. It doesn't matter how small or how big. Start to challenge them. Start to question them. Okay? You have to listen. We're facing a great shift, and you must change with the change. You must be able to change with the change, because if you cannot, you'll be like a lot of other people that can't change with the change, and you're going to hang up. It's going to happen. See what I'm saying? We want to survive the change. We don't see this as the end of the world. Other people do, because it's the end of their time. You understand? We got next. You want to live to see it. See? So start to break down how you think. Start to challenge the things that you consider solid, normal, fixed. Begin the process of psychological alchemy. All right? That's
Hey, Sharif, since you said in the past that I think it was a white dude or somebody told you that the Atlanteans was going to reincarnate, the ancient Atlanteans was going to reincarnate in the Americas. Am I correct?
The head of one of the orders, one of the secret orders that I'm a member of, that's what we're going to be in. The purpose of this order is to
I don't want to miss. Say that again, Sharif.
He is European, but he was initiated.
Sharif, can you hear me?
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
What you say is still.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good. I just want you to say it over. I want to hear it.
What he did, no problem. He moved the order's headquarters from Haiti, where he was initiated by people that look like us. Right. He moved the headquarters from Haiti to the south side of Chicago in the year 1966 to broadcast into the higher dimensions the Afro-Atlantean current for the purpose of attracting the old Atlantean priesthood, who he says, this European says, is now reincarnating in America in the bodies of African and mixed European African descent.
So he had to go to Chicago. He was like, I'm going to Chicago, huh?
I'm going to the south side of Chicago to broadcast my signal into the matrix.
By the way, family, thank you for being with us. There's a delay when I'm asking Sharif a question. The video's a little choppy, so the technology is glitching a little bit tonight. So thanks for being with us on this magnificent broadcast. All right.
Yeah.
I want to get to another question from the family in the chat. Somebody said the sun is a portal, so is the black sun a portal?
Go ahead, bro.
Oh shit, BDell's on.
Yeah.
Is he frozen?
No, I'm in now. I was muted at first.
You gotta BDell.
Just when you look at a Masonic tracing board, just think of it as when you look at the two pillars, the pillars of severity and mercy that's interconnected to the sun and the moon. I mean, the sun in itself is really just a portal of ascension to get right back to the star Polaris in the galactic center. And, and the moon is just basically a portal for, reincarnation purposes. That's just based on my own independent research. But the black sun is basically being used as a catalyst. The black sun is basically the activation of your pineal gland interfacing with the sun to get right back to the galactic center with what I call the North Star Polaris. So even when you look at, a lot of those tracing boards, they show you that mythology. And that's basically following the path of Malakut. The path to the middle way is actually the Christ, and the Christ represents what? The place of the skull, the Golgotha, that is also interconnected to Christ being crucified on a solar eclipse, which is the black sun. So that means that your consciousness has to interface with a certain intelligence that's in the magnetosphere of what I call the fifth dimension, and that's the mental plane.
Indeed.
So, can I tell a secret, brother?
Go ahead, brother. Come on,
Or share one.
Go ahead, my brother.
Point to your question.
Yes.
Every celestial body is a portal. Every celestial body is a doorway. But don't think of the physical celestial bodies as the doorway. Remember, everything in 3 dimensions is a 3-dimensional shadow of a higher reality.
Right.
All right. So let's take, for example, the planet Mars, right? What does Mars represent esoterically? In other words, on the higher dimensions, what does it represent? Action, war, anger, maybe. You see what I'm saying? But let's look at action, activity. All right. Also, it represents what? The indwelling ego. The thing that you say, I am. I'm me. That's what it represents. That is why the serpent in the book of Genesis was really Samael, one of the Martian entities. Understand? Okay, so follow me. We're co-creators with the creator. So our thoughts are things just like we're a thought of the creator. Get it? All right. Predisposed to popping, jumping, you know what I'm saying? Activity, action, adrenaline junkies, right? Aries personality. That means the majority of their thoughts are Martian in nature. Do you know?
Damn, man. Sharif, you breaking up bad. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I ain't never seen it this bad. They doing
something. This is somebody asks do I think it's because of the solar flares? I don't know why, but yeah, this is BDell's video is a little clearer now. Well, it's off and on. Mine's is a little. But yeah, Sharif, man. Sharif would come in. He was just on the show with Billy and it was all fine. He just did a show with Billy and he was fine on that show. Wonder if I got a strong Wi-Fi signal. So it ain't my Wi-Fi. Yeah,
StreamYard been going through some changes. They probably updating systems.
They said it's because he's telling secrets. They said Sharif shouldn't be telling. He'll be right back, family. He'll be right back. Somebody answer this one real quick while you wait for BDell. Is there a connection with the ultra terrestrials and the data centers popping up everywhere?
Yeah, because the most intrinsic resource on the planet is actually human data. So that's why I was talking about the gematria body, because your gematria body interfaces with everything in the simulation, because that's what makes up the simulation in itself is the subatomic particles. The subatomic particles, which are basically cube shaped. This is why I say that we live in a simulation, because, like I said, everything is an entrapment of energy. So the data centers are basically it's one of those things where it interfaces with technology, just like your phone is a cube, your tablet is a cube, your computer screen is a cube. It's another way for them to entrap the energy and extract loose from your physical vessel, which is basically the data. The loose is the data. They're basically interchangeable. So that's all it is. In an esoterics, they call it loose, but when you're talking about it from a technological standpoint, you're actually talking about data systems, because that data is connected to your gematria body, and your gematria body is interconnected to your gematria code that works on the binary code system of the dark side of the moon. That's where artificial intelligence is being operated from. It's on the dark side of the moon. That's why Credo Mutwa, he talks about in the inception of time, there wasn't no moon. The moon was told into our solar system, because the moon is being used as a catalyst to siphon the energy, the data from humans for the archonic forces. Because what is the moon? Energy and motion, emotion. Because your emotions, which supplicates to a form of a weakness, is what creates this dynamic to where they're able to extract energy from you, because now you have an emotional connection to food. Now you got an emotional connection to pornography, because like I said, the pornography, when you're watching it from your phone, it's an energy extraction.
Right.
So they don't even have to shed blood. They got that way too. That's what they create, the deep state shadow government and the satanic rituals and stuff. They created that for that. But as far as like the great majority of everything, as far as like energy exchange, it's operated by frequencies, EMF wave frequencies that interfaces with your chakra system from these technological devices. That is basically another way for them to extract the loose from your body.
Yo, BDell, real quick, since you're talking about the whole loose and emotional energy, and you mentioned porn, and there's a lot of people on the internet will say things like, if somebody is watching porn and then and they're ejaculating to the porn or masturbating, whatever, and they'll say lower level astral entities will feed off of that energy. That's your life force that you getting letting out. Does the person that you're watching benefit from your energy being projected toward her, or if it's a woman toward him, does that person benefit from that energy, or is it just these lower astral energies that feed off your life force when you're watching Pornhub and shit like that?
I would say no. I think it actually puts more of an encryption over their physical vessel. And the reason I say that is because the great majority of people who tap into like pornography and stuff like that, they're dealing, or just people who are just in porn, it's coming from an unhealed state. Because
Right.
what I'm saying, you just think of it from a standpoint, you got people, masturbating to people who was, touched on when they was a little kid.
Right.
So I think that enhances the demons, even when you feed into it. The more you feed into it, I feel like it actually, gives off a certain vibratory frequency to these entities, to the point where they're able to replicate themselves, to the point where you're able to have more demons attached to you. You ever seen a movie? I forgot the name, but it was the guy who played in the Lord of the Rings. His name was Frodo in the Lord of the Rings. That guy, he was able to see people when they was about to die. He's seen that they had an accumulation of a lot of entities on them. And that's kind of like the same thing you do, as far as like when you're in a low vibrational state, you got depression. That's the whole entity. You got, all your afflictions, your vices or whatever. You got all types of demons that feed off that vibration, and it basically enhances when you watch, pornography from a computer screen or telephone or whatever.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
You said something. Damn, I wonder what happened to Sharif, y'all. God damn, I thought he would have been back by now.
Right.
Something must really be going on with the brother. Let me put my Buddha. I had to I bless BDell, I bless Buddha with the emerald chain. So
Yeah,
now
you got to.
and now he got the emerald chain. I just got on the gold. I blessed Buddha with the emerald, y'all. So he, he blinging. You know what I mean? So
I'm
we
glad.
both.
I'm glad you did that because and just like I was extrapolating in my transmission last week, 2 days ago. If you look at the recent movies that's coming out, they're telling you about a biblical timeline because there's a reason why they came out with the movie Michael. There's a movie out called The Beast. There's a movie because all this is nothing but a timeline. But Michael was actually Michael in the Bible that's interconnected to the book of Revelations chapter 12, where he slays the dragon, because Michael is actually the warrior version of Melchizedek, which is basically the Zohar, the higher self version, which represents the green Ethereal energy. That's connected to the Sufi order of the Sons of Green Light. Because in the esoterics, they say that the color green and white are basically interchangeable. So because green is the most divine color, because it represents spiritual protection, and it also represents Christ consciousness.
Indeed.
That's why you ever notice, Michael Jackson in the movie, not the movie, but in the what was it called? Rock With You. Remember that?
Yeah,
Rock With You. You had the green background, and he was in a crystalline state.
Right.
Yeah.
That video was you just damn, I gotta watch that, BDell.
Yeah.
I ain't see that in a minute. You're right.
Yeah, because he was in a crystalline state because the crystallization is supposed to where you have the ether interfaces with it.
Oh man. Well, I got a list of things I gotta do after the show. I gotta watch The Rock With You. I gotta listen to Down for My Niggas. I got there's a couple of things I gotta do to tap in. This is important, family. This is you said something, BDell, that was real important that I hope people picked up on. Sometime last year you said it on my show, and you was talking about using your emotions, and your emotions being so strong. Sometimes when you're visualizing, you might shed a tear. And we gotta understand, sometimes we get so emotional with trauma, or just like you said with porn, you'll get so emotionally invested in the porn or whatever you're doing. If we was able to get emotionally invested in the visualization of our purpose down here on this realm and start visualizing things, we will be so unstoppable, BDell, if we're able to conjure those emotions at that time during the visualization. And like you said, so powerful where you're crying out of happiness, because you know what I'm saying? Like that's another level. That's the next level shit. It has happened to me. So when you said it, it just resonated with me so much. And I said, damn, BDell's one of them ones. You know what that's about right there. You know what I'm saying?
But it's kind of like the same concept as, you want something so bad to the point where it makes you cry. That's connected to the heart chakra, because the heart is a portal, and you collapse time when you think about something you want so much to the point where it makes you emotional. Because like I said, that's what your emotions is tether connected to people, places, and possessions that is also interconnected to your imagination. So you got to create that manifestation portal by way of tapping into your emotions to the point where you be like, damn, like is a negative way and there's a positive way to do it. Like a person could be going through a breakup, like, man, she done cheated on me with 5 dudes, and you know what I'm saying, I'm fat and I want to get myself together, I want to get my life together, and that's how you bounce back, because you believe in yourself so much to the point where you're able to grab that intelligence and break it down to yourself to the point where it's in a form of manifestation, to where you start going to the gym. Because like I said, it's connected to the 4 basic elements of the soul: thinking, reasoning, understanding, and willpower. Because that's where your willpower comes from. It comes from your heart. So, it's one of those things where, it's definitely a real thing when it comes to that. Yeah.
Somebody asked earlier about things they should do. And, one of the things people, by the way, I'm sorry, Sharif texted me. He said his phone went blank. He said, bro, my phone went blank. So I have no idea. Like I said, it was just real strange tonight with the because he was just on the show with Billy and everything went fine. But yeah, I know he would love. I don't know if he's gonna be able to come back or what, y'all. But yeah, he said his phone went blank.
Yeah, it's definitely a time right now. They doing a lot of crazy stuff. You like with panels and people coming up missing and unalived, and they doing all types of stuff right
Yeah,
now.
no, definitely.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I see somebody also in the chat. I see somebody said, "I love your porn, a hell of a drug, and y'all cooking." Yeah, I had to shake that shit out my system when I was younger. That is, watching it when I was younger, you can easily get caught up in that shit, and then you got to get up out that shit. You know what I'm saying?
Because
I
feel
remember
like it.
I remember, yo, be there. I remember on 25th, you walk down the street and they would just have it all on the sidewalk. This is when DVDs was out. They would just have all the DVDs on the sidewalk. Little kids could see it, all types of people. I'm like 20 walking by. I'm talking about 15 different porns out there on DVDs. You know what I'm saying? Shit was crazy, yo. That was that era. That was a wild era. Police ain't say nothing. They just out, you know what I mean? Wild era right there, y'all. But
Yeah, you definitely
yeah,
need good. What I'm saying, pornography is another way to subjugate your spiritual energy because your sexual energy is your spiritual energy. So when you stop watching porn, you take your energy back.
take your
When
energy
you
back.
start smoking and drinking, you take your mind back. When you start working out, going to the gym, you get your discipline back. So
Mhm.
it's just another way, I'm saying, you got to cultivate mastery in the form of equilibrium. You got to be energetically balanced because if you have a chronic imbalance and you leaning too far to the left, that's when you
Mhm.
can get compromised, where these lower entities can feed on you.
Indeed, no, indeed. What I was gonna say before Sharif texted me, BDell, is I hear people saying one of the first things they say is make sure you eat right, change your diet or whatever. And I heard, and I think you did a show with him, Unc 607, and I heard him and somebody else say something similar. They was like the thing that's keeping your body going is your purpose. And once you stop fulfilling your purpose, your body thinks it's time to check out. So regardless of what else you're doing, you could be the best vegan on the planet. If you're not tapping into your purpose, your body will think it's, and I heard a sister say it. I wish I knew the sister's name. Your body will think it's time to check out. So do you think, regardless of what you're doing, how much sun you're getting, how well you're breathing, if you're not tapped directly into your purpose, do you think your body will clock out because they think you finished doing what you came to do on Earth?
Yes, I believe that. I really believe that. I
Mhm.
really, it's one of those things where if you don't give yourself time enough to, what I'm saying, to tap into those energies and step into your purpose, I do believe that you can be compromised over the course of time and meet your demise. Because it's like one of those things where, when you get into the esoterics, they say that Earth is a school, and another word for school is Shiu in ancient Hebrew. So Earth is basically a school. So if you're not learning and you're not going through the journey, you're not following the hero's journey, you're not trying to go from neophyte, adept, to master, or whatever. It's one of those things where if I feel like you're not tapping into your purpose, you're basically uh, conforming to the ideologies and of the system by being an NPC because you got to choose a side. You choose the system or you choose yourself.
No,
Either you
indeed.
choose the system. So I believe that a lot of times because of people, places, and possessions, a lot of people get distracted from their purpose. What I'm
Mhm.
saying that they're subjected to many different vices, smoking and drinking, going out and partying all the time. A lot of those afflictions is being used as a weapon to keep you deviated from your purpose. So I feel like if you're not fulfilling that, sometimes a lot of times it can compromise you, in a physical way where you can be unalived in the future.
Indeed, indeed. Let's get to we're gonna do about two more questions, then we're gonna get out of here. Yeah,
Okay.
I still can't believe Sharif that happened with Sharif, man. Oh man, my boy Sharif. All right, somebody said I have friends that took the draconian juice and they're trying to get rid of it. Is there a way to remove it from their bodies? And we all know what he's talking about. So yeah,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Um, I would say sweating, and I heard chlorophyll, pulls out the great majority of the nanotechnology, and it's also chlorophyll is a good way to extract the parasites from the biofilm inside your physical vessel, because the nanotechnology that's inside the draconian juice and these genetically modified foods, they basically interface with the parasites to the point where they're able to replicate themselves.
Right,
So
right.
fasting, I would say fasting, getting some sun, chlorophyll, stuff like that. I heard colloidal silver is a good way, what I'm saying, to extract metals from the body. Um, Fasting is key though. You always want to keep your body in a fasted state because that's how you speed up your vibration.
Right, right. Yeah, I would definitely that's one of those unfortunate things, man. I feel sorry for the people who, had to choose between their livelihood and getting it, because I know a lot of y'all didn't want to, but you knew no other way to feed your family and pay your rent, and that's a hell of a situation to be placed in. So I don't fault nobody for what they had to do or what they felt they had to do. But yeah, I think that the power of the mind, we're able to, this is holographic. Everything is just a field. We're not people, we're fields of energy. So I think we definitely listen to BDell, like he said, the fasting in the sun. I would say though, get as naked in the sun as possible. Let your whole body get, yeah, your gut, let that hit your gut, your microbiome, all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Yeah, shout out to y'all, and I hope y'all able to get the help that y'all need, because that was some serious shit that they did right there. You know what I'm saying? All right, let me kick this person out. We got the freaks in the room now, because you mentioned porn, so we got the little ditties in the room and shit like that.
Oh yeah, you gotta get them up out of here.
We got to no freaky shit tonight, y'all. We just having a good adult conversation. You know what I'm saying? Let's get to another question. Like I said, we're gonna get out of here soon. Yeah, I'm thanks for bringing this up. Nicotine diluted in distilled water destroys nanobots along with colloidal silver. A lot of people during that time, if you was into the white YouTubers a lot at that time, all of them was talking about wearing the patches, the nicotine patches. You heard of that, B-Del?
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, they was big. That community was bigger to the nicotine patches. The nicotine, that's why I got the cigars. It helped a lot with that. So yeah, definitely tap in with the nicotine. You might want to get you some radio cigars. I got
Yep.
some right over here. You know what I'm saying? You might want to send some radio cigars to your friends or whatever. But yeah, definitely tap in with the nicotine.
Mhm.
You know, let's get to another question. All right, BDell. They said, so because raising your vibration can activate and have you interfacing with outer terrestrials, inner terrestrials, wouldn't contact be inevitable anyway at some point as you grow?
I would say yes, because like I said, your vibration is your sound wave. You're basically a biological tuning fork.
Yeah.
So you gotta be in tune in order to interface with these entities. Because it's like I said, you're basically you basically gotta be a signal in a world full of static in
There you
order to
go.
reap the benefits of the message. You got to be a signal in a world full of static. So, like I said, if you have a chronic imbalance, you're not going to be able to reap the benefits of higher intelligence and getting downloads and things of that nature. Because, like I said, your higher thoughts is connected to your higher self. So your thoughts is Thoth.
Mm-hmm.
They're basically interchangeable because your thoughts in the self, they travel on 0 point energy fields. So at some point in time, what I'm saying, these thoughts that's coming from the cosmos, coming from the magnetosphere, or whether it's coming from the positive faction of the ultraterrestrials or whatever, a lot of those vibrations in itself is, they're going to give you information to help you tap into your futuristic self
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
become your best self.
Right. BDell, I was talking to Red Pill, right? And we was talking, I forgot what we was talking about, what was going on. We was talking about something, and I told Red Pill, I said, I got a theory on how this shit is gonna go down and how this simulation, this culture, this civilization is gonna basically come to an end, or when shit's really gonna go down. And I told Red Pill, I said, yo, I said, because we was talking about what's going on, and he was like, how in the Bible it talks about how the nations are going to turn against Israel at the end, and he was like, the small hats, they're trying to fulfill that prophecy or whatever. So I said to myself, I said, if we the true Israelites, I said, you know how I think if the nations is going to turn against the Israelites, the tribe of Judah at the end, I said it gotta be, if you could feel the energy in the air, I said it gotta be when black people in America get reparations. Damn near the whole world is going to turn against us.
Oh yeah.
If you could see how upset so many people get at the thought and the idea of reparations, the whole world is going to turn against niggas in America when they get their reparations. Shit's going to go down. America's going to, if they want America to fall immediately, give niggas some reparations. This shit will fall in a month. I'm talking about every group is going to be mad, angry, upset. And then I think that's when, like Sharif said, the Atlanteans and all these people, you know, are being incarnated over here. I think that's when the real aliens, whoever they are, they're gonna come and stop all that shit. Because in the Bible, I forget where it says the nations will form against Israel, but they was like God will stop it swiftly or some shit like that. I forget exactly how I would say it. But when I told Red Pill like that, he said, you know that's in the Watchmen, right? I said, I never seen it. We talked about it before, but I never seen the show The Watchmen. He was like, the blacks got the reparations and everybody turned against them. I'm getting this crazy ringing in my ear right now, yo. Wow, that came out.
That means you on point.
Wow. Yo, that it came out of nowhere, yo. Wow. Oh man, but yeah. So I got to go back, y'all, and I got to watch The Watchmen. I know you watched the movies. You got into the movies. Have you seen that? Is there any
I haven't seen Watchmen.
Okay.
I believe that ideology. I see, because they show you that in the movie Cosmic Slop. They extraterrestrials, they came back and they wanted all the black people, and as soon as they got all the black people, the whole planet blew up.
Man.
So there's got to be something. I forgot his name. Clinton.
Yeah.
He's a singer.
Who?
It ain't Bill Clinton, but his last name
George?
is Clinton.
What, George Clinton?
Yeah, George Clinton. He's the one that came in. He's the one who produced the movie.
Okay, no, you're right. Oh, Cosmic Slop. Yes, he did produce it. Yes.
Yeah. So,
George Clinton did produce, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there's some truth to that. So I mean, and you know, he's been tapped into that information for the longest time. He's been propagating that all throughout his music career, cosmic intelligence and stuff.
Oh, somebody gave the Bible verse. Yeah. Before we get out here, let me put this. Let me look this up real quick. Zechariah 14. Oh, let me see what this say. 14. 1-4. Let me see.
Yeah, and they ain't gonna probably give us that shit until the dollar really about to collapse for real.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, it'll be some shit like that.
It's gonna be a buzzer beater. You're gonna get about 5 good years, maybe 2 good years of that cash, and they're gonna pull that motherfucking plug.
You know that, BDell. You know that. But there's a big connection, y'all, with this rep, and when this whole shit come tumbling down. Watch, I'm telling y'all. Be careful out there, man. But we play if we are the ancient Atlanteans, we're like the main characters in this movie. So the ending of the movie, we're heavily involved in the ending of this movie in this realm down here. So it's definitely going to involve us, and I think it's definitely going to involve that. But we're gonna see what happens. We're gonna see what happens. Yeah, but I know we super good though, regardless, y'all. We super duper good, So, but BDell, man, anything you want to share with the people before we get out of here?
Stay true to yourself. don't, you know, conform to any type of outside distractions during this time period. You know, just kind of stay, you know, in alignment, and also just utilize your resources around you as far as like people, places, and possessions. You know, as far for a positive standpoint. So especially during this time period, just, you know, be careful of who you're around, because, you know, energy transfer is real, and you don't want other people's demons to become yours. So be energetically aligned, and stay tapped into your purpose, and try to be authentic as much as possible. Because the reason I say try to be authentic as much as possible is that, you know, when you don't have the ability to read or write, you know, that means that you don't have the ability to think. And if you can't think, they're going to put a system in play to do the thinking for you, which is artificial intelligence. So think for yourself while still legal to. Think for yourself, and stay authentic.
Right. Last question, BDell. I like this one from this brother here. It's one of them questions that, you know, the brother, you know, wanna you know, come from his heart. Brother said, if you are spiritually at a standpoint, how can you get momentum going in? Very important, BDell.
Um,
Very.
get uncomfortable.
Yeah, there you go. There
Get
you go.
uncomfortable.
There
Get
you go.
uncomfortable. That's the only way you're going to be able to, you know, give yourself the propensity to do something that's self-affirming, you know, which basically puts you in alignment with your higher self. So get uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? If you don't like going to the gym, just do something as little as, you know, just going to the gym and then leaving. Just drive to the gym and leave, and create that repetition of you just driving to the gym in the morning or whenever the time you're able to go. That's going to give you the propensity to go inside there and start, you know, working on yourself. So sometimes you got to do everything in increments. You know, just something as small as that. And if it's one of those things where you want to, change up your dietary system or whatever, if you want to transmute to being vegan, just try to be a vegan, you know what I'm saying, at least, you know, 2 or 3 days out the week, and then go back to your original diet or whatever. So you got to create a balance and just do everything in increments. So that creates, to unlock, that stagnant energy. That's how you do that. You got to get uncomfortable.
Indeed, my brother. Yo, absolutely fantastic show, BDell. Please leave your information, your YouTube, and everything else. I know you got a book. Let the family know how they can support you, my brother.
Okay. This is my book right here, Sacred Book of the Chosen. You can find it on Amazon. You can also find me on YouTube at BDell1014. You can find me on Instagram at BDell1014, BDell1014, and you can find me on Facebook at Brydell Rice Bay.
Indeed. Hey, with that being said, my brother BDell, I want to thank you once again for coming on the show. Shout out to everybody for tuning in. And BDell, I'm gonna talk to you soon, my brother.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. All right,
Salute.
peace, my brother.
Peace.
All right, peace. All right, family. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. What a wonderful show tonight that we had. Oh man, I'm crazy with the interruptions. Both of their videos was blurry. It was a delay. Sharif, as soon as Sharif said, "I got a secret," that nigga said, "I got a secret." He froze they froze him. I hate saying they, but as soon as he said, I got a secret," he just froze, yo. It was crazy, man. Once again, great show. Once again, rest in peace to David Wilcock. Shout out to everybody out there that's putting in the work in the UFO community, in the UAP community, or the ultra-terrestrial community. Shout out to Shout out to Sharif for introducing that concept and that idea and that on my channel, the ultra-terrestrials. I didn't hear about it before the brother said it. So I want to thank the brother for even bringing that on my channel. But this is the second time this week Sharif been on. So he was on twice this week. But I had to bring him back for the show because he the one that talks about. And Wesley Muhammad too. Shout out to Wesley Muhammad. He talks about the crypto civilizations and You know, how the extraterrestrials are advanced beings from here, you know. So yeah. Other than that, I'm about to get out of here. Let me see what y'all talking about in the chat. Let me see. Yeah. Just once again, you know, and I'm because the first book review I'm doing is on the biology of belief. I talked to you about this one, but I got to get to this eventually on the channel, or maybe on Patreon, because this will probably be for you know, them hardcore people that sit to the information that really, you know what I mean. This is an extensive read right here, but yeah, the law of one, the raw material, the law of one. So eventually I'm gonna get to that. I don't know when, but eventually I'm gonna get to that right there. Other than that, let me see. Before I get out of here, somebody said, "What is Stone Mountain?" I don't understand that question. Stone Mountain is a mountain in Georgia. Rich, when will you have your first NDE episode? I need to have one, right? I haven't had one yet. Yeah, I haven't had one yet. The near-death experience of it's all over YouTube. The near-death experiences. Yeah, I need to have one. Just I guess when I get the right person. But I need to have one. Yeah, I'm gonna check on Sharif right after the show. He did text me. He said his phone went blank, but I'll make sure everything is good after the show. You know, somebody said best state to relocate for spiritual reasons. Got to follow your intuition with that one. Yeah, I can't. Don't let nobody lead you with that. That's a very important decision for you and your family. I would say you got to, you know, and because we all got different the astral cartography, we all got different spots in the planet that's popping for us. Yeah, you got to follow your intuition with that. Maybe get an astral cartography reading. Maybe that might assist you. Yeah, see, somebody said use your astral cartography for best location. Yeah, so you know, use that. Yeah, I tell you, in my astrocartography reading, they said one of my places is Barcelona, and I'm like, what the hell am I in Spain? They told me Spain. Barcelona, Spain. I'm like, the only time I heard of Barcelona is when the Dream Team went there in the 90s. So I'm like, what the hell? What am I going to be doing out there in Barcelona, Spain? But they did say my other spot was LA. My Jupiter is in right. It runs dead through Los Angeles. So I guess if I wanted to get that paper, according to them, you know, I need to be in LA. But I don't see myself going to LA, you know, not with them earthquakes, you know what I'm saying? I don't see. Shout out to AA though. AA out in LA. I just talked to him the other day. Shout out to my brother AA. I got to get him on. I need to get AA on once a month because I like how my brother AA be doing his thing on here. So I need to okay. Sharif said he will disclose the secret at Stone Mountain. Okay. Did he say that in the chat? I didn't. Or did he say that? I'm gonna call. Like I said, I'm gonna call him. Make sure the brother's all right. Make sure the brother. I'm gonna watch Jumper though. I haven't seen Jumper in years, probably about a decade. I'm gonna watch Jumper within the next by the end of this week. I'm gonna watch Jumper. You know, I'm gonna watch Jumper by the end of the week. You know, I'm gonna call LeBron. I'm gonna call for LeBron. I had that extraterrestrial panel with her and Billy and Phil and Dr. Wesley. I want to get her on here again and get her opinion on everything that's going on. She's been a big part of that UFO community. So shout out to LeBron for holding it down and doing what she's doing on her end. Brilliant. She's brilliant with it, you know. So yeah, shout out to LeBron. But I'm gonna holler at for LeBron. I might try to get her on Friday. Yeah, I might try to get LeBron on Friday. But other than that, family, yeah. Everybody, listen, enjoy your night. This was somebody said, have you watched Empire yet? The show Empire. There was a show on HBO Empire, and then there was a show on Fox Empire. So I don't know which one you're talking about. So Blacklight said, I'll be in ATL for the Ferry Festival. Can I get my cigars, bro? I sent them to you, brother. I gotta look up. Yeah, I've been sent those to you. Shit, you ain't get your cigars? Yeah, I've been sent those to you. I'm gonna look up your tracking number. Yeah, I've been sent those to you, bro. Damn, you know what's funny? I thought about you a couple of weeks ago. I was like, Blacklight ain't telling me his experience with the cigars. So I was wondering. I was like, damn, I wonder how his experience was. But yeah, I've been sent those to you. But I should have the tracking. So I'm gonna look it up. But damn, it's been a long time, there, brother. I thought you been got it. Because I sent yours with some of the other speakers. I forgot who else. But yeah, I'll see. I'll see what's going on. Oh, Barry Littleton was on LeBron channel. All right, I'm gonna ask her. Yeah, I'll ask her about that. All right, I'm gonna get out of here, family. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. We had a great show tonight. Oh man, I will be back Friday with another great show. So I will see y'all then. Until then, family, continue to tap in. We are in some very, very interesting times, family. Tap into your authenticity. Somebody said, let's talk David Wilcock. We already discussed that already. You like super. Yeah, we already talked about David Wilcock early in the show. Yeah. Love from Oregon. Yeah, shout out to Oregon. I gotta visit there one day. Blue Pill be telling me about Oregon or Oregon. Is it Oregon or Oregon? Yeah, but and Mount Shasta and all of that. I definitely want to go there one day to Mount Shasta. But yeah. Family, enjoy the rest of your night. I will see y'all Friday, all right? Peace and blessings, y'all.
Before there were cigarettes, before there were brands, there was the leaf. Tobacco is one of the oldest forms of spirit communication known to humanity. Long before modern times, it was understood as a living messenger, a way for human intention to travel beyond the visible world and return with meaning. In the oldest traditions, tobacco was never a habit. It was a bridge, not something used to escape life, but something used to speak with it. Our ancestors knew breath as spirit itself, and smoke was breath-given form. When the leaf touched fire, it awakened. When guided by breath, it carried thought into the unseen. In that moment, intention became vapor, and prayer learned how to rise. It was never about getting high. It was about clarity, connection, making the invisible visible. That's the memory the leaf still carries. Radio Cigars.
Radio cigar. Radio cigar. Radio cigar.